R. Kelly has been making headlines, and he's been making headlines sporadically through the past several years because of various allegations against him involving sexual activity with minors. There have been allegations that he coerces women to live with him in a cult-like atmosphere. And recently, Lifetime came out with a docuseries called Surviving R. Kelly. Now, the docuseries addressed claims that the R&B singer had sex with countless underage girls and alleged that he had a history of picking up teenagers at a high school in Chicago and at shopping malls during his tour stops. And there have been people who have worked closely with him who have also corroborated some of these allegations. For instance, his former tour manager and personal assistant, Demetrius Smith, admitted to helping the singer seek out girls, some of them underage, in local malls. And so as more attention is being focused on his actions, there have been activists who are, specifically targeting various platforms that still stream or play his music, and they're pushing for a campaign. It's known as Mute R. Kelly. It's been going on for a while now, and it's working. So activists said that they were told by KJLH, which is owned by Stevie Wonder, that the station has long since stopped playing R. Kelly songs after sexual misconduct allegations emerged against the singer. And the whole point is not to censor R. Kelly. The whole point is to stop rewarding someone who could be a child predator, right?
Yeah.
Now, back in May, Spotify also got involved. They announced that they would stop including music by R. Kelly on its curated playlists. So let's stop right there. It didn't mean that they would take his music off the platform. It just meant that they would no longer feature his music in curated playlists. Days later, Apple Music and Pandora followed suit. The decisions followed a story by BuzzFeed News alleging that Kelly was holding women in homes in Chicago and Atlanta against their will in a sex cult. And we had reported on this story before, but the docuseries by Lifetime, it interviews multiple parents and victims who have experienced this with R. Kelly. One of them actually dated him for 2 years and talked about how she was forced to live with him, obviously against her will. I mean, it's terrifying, and much like Bill Cosby, I hope that his day in court comes and justice can be served. And look, that's the whole point of the justice system, right? Instead of guessing as to whether or not he's a child predator, why don't we have him go through, he should be prosecuted for these allegations, and we should get to the bottom of the truth. But it appears that that hasn't happened yet. And by the way, his former tour manager also said that he had forged documents in order to have R. Kelly marry Aaliyah when she was only 15 years old. The forged documents indicated that she was 18, so she would be able to marry him. Just let that sink in for a second.
Think about the history of it. This isn't anything new. We've known this about R. Kelly for a very long time. And it also shows you the power of public opinion, the court of public opinion when it comes to actually leading to actual court and accusations and realities behind what's gone on. None of this is been uncovered, not none of it, but most of this isn't like, oh my God, I didn't know, I never heard about any of this. But now that it's been put on a docuseries, now people are paying attention. It's a little bit of sadly, it's an indictment of our society and how we have to see it on TV before we actually start believing it. And but it's caused people to be divided. There's some people who are like, no matter what, we're gonna be on his side because dude can sing. Or he made Step in the Name of Love. Okay, so so now because of that, you overlook the actual things that have gone on with his life and how many other lives he's actually ruined. And you have to rethink, why is it that important to you to continue this legacy of destruction? It's sad.
Well, the thing is, it's not important to people to continue to listen to his music. It's what doing that represents. And it's this thought in people's mind that women aren't necessarily whole people and that they can be treated in any which way, and especially black women in particular. And so when R. Kelly does whatever he wants with black women, it's almost an acknowledgement of that being okay. And and now, as you mentioned, our society, it is changing. It's by virtue of the fact that women are standing up and they're speaking up, and they are essentially embracing their wholeness and fighting and pushing back. And so that's why this issue with R. Kelly is now at the forefront. And he does need to face pretty much the justice system. And there are a lot of state attorneys, including Illinois, who are asking victims to come forward, because you never know necessarily with the statute of limitations, which differ in every state, and they may be able to do something, but the reality is nothing is going to get done if people remain silent. That we have to speak up because this man is predatory. We've known it, and now we can hold him accountable for it. Right. So just because we've let it go for so many years doesn't mean that we should just turn a blind eye now. Now is the time. Come forward, speak up, and let's get rid of this. Let's make this man and this behavior go away.
So there have been, I think, in part due to this docuseries, there have been some attorneys who are now getting involved. So for instance, in the state of Georgia, Gerald Griggs, who's an attorney for the family of Joycelyn Savage, I apologize. That's one of the women who are featured in this Surviving R. Kelly docuseries, told CNN that the Fulton County District Attorney reached out to him a few days ago, and they are going to begin the investigation, at least in the state of Georgia. So that's incredibly important because one of the homes where he allegedly kept some of these women or girls captive was in Georgia, right? In Atlanta specifically. So look, again, you should have an investigation, right? Yes. These allegations come forward. There's more and more evidence, at least in the form of witness testimony. And so why not look into it? I don't understand why it's taken this long. It's very similar to what we experienced with the Bill Cosby story. Like, I couldn't understand why we couldn't just have him have his day in court. And so
what you might find out.
Right.
Yeah, and it's the reality of all of these things that have been going on behind closed doors, because we still live in a society that's very puritanical in thought. And we don't want to address these things knowing that they are happening to the women and the vulnerable members of our society around us. And so to have to acknowledge that on top of it, a lot of people feel like it's just too much. Let's pretend it doesn't go on while other people suffer.
So the defense for R. Kelly, like you see people defending him. So it doesn't stop at, we're fans, we like his music, right? People also think that this is an attack on R. Kelly specifically because of his race.
Oh, get out of here.
So I want to touch on that because I thought that was really interesting because his victims are also black. So how is that an attack on race?
There's a hierarchy within our world, honestly. Yes. So if you're a minority, you're put at its lower totem pole. If you're a woman, you're put at a lower totem pole.
Even lower.
So imagine if you're a minority woman, you're at the lowest of low. So even other minorities, if you're your same ethnic group, if they're like, hey, well, I got this on you as far as society is concerned, I can continue to look down on you. People have this self-worth based off being able to look down on someone else or being able to do whatever they want to that other person.
That's right.
And then be backed by again, the public.
And the public not standing up for you, people not speaking out against you. It is a hierarchical realm in our society on what you look like and what your gender is. And unfortunately, some of us aren't entitled to the same rights others are, which is why we continue to see these stories of certain members of society telling all these crazy lies or sexual assaults and they get 6 months in jail, or not even 6 months in jail, but probation. And it's because there are two different justice systems, but there are many different social systems.
Right.
And unfortunately, he is preying on the weakest member of society when it comes to social status. And it is very annoying when people say, but we've had a black president. But you see how great Beyonce is, all these things. It's like, really? Are you really missing everything?
They are, because they choose to be blind to it.
Yes.
But while I do agree that and we talk about it on the show all the time, there's a two-tier justice system. I mean, you have people like the Stanford student who got caught raping someone behind a dumpster, and he barely served any time behind bars for what he did. I believe it ended up being 3 months because he was let off early for good behavior. I mean, that's out of control, and of course, that was a miscarriage of justice. But that should not be, what people point to make excuses for someone else who's potentially committing the same crimes or even worse.
Yep, the what about hims.
The what about him, the what about, you see it everywhere. You
Yes,
see
you
it when
do.
it comes to politics, you see it when it comes to stories like this. And we need to stop treating situations that way because it leads to more injustice.
Seriously, instead of what about him, what about the victim?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yes.
What about that person who deserves justice? Or what about his future victims that are gonna be hurt if you don't do something? It is
people
just
begin to
frustrating.
start seeing, if you have a reason to defend someone like this, ask yourself why. And I said this the other day when we talked about Jasmine Barnes, and when people are defending and be like, how dare you guys listen to this black victim? Why are you so upset with people listening to a victim? Is it because you share some views and actions of the accused?
And that makes you a bad person.
Or is it that you want to continue to see it happen, or because you don't like that person speaking out so much because that loudmouth is supposed to stay where they're supposed to stay, beneath me?
Yep.
Either way, it's an ugly reality that you have to face, and we don't like to face our realities of who we really are.
2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.